Let's wax about Japan's tin drum. Released on November 13th, 1981, Tin Drum is the fifth and final studio album from new wave art pop band Japan, produced by Japan and producer Steve Nye. Obviously there's history, so let's hit it. All in school together, the band was formed in the early 70s by brothers David Sylvian and Steve Jansen along with school friend Mick Karn. Initially with Karn singing lead, the vocal duties switched over to Sylvian by 1974. Initially nameless, the band named themselves temporarily Japan, and the name just stuck. Joined by Richard Barbieri and Rob Dean in 1975, the band won a label-sponsored talent contest and got signed to Hansa Records in 1977. Releasing their debut album, Adolescent Sex, in 1978, Japan at the time were decidedly following and continuing the then outdated tropes of glam rock left behind by the likes of Bowie, T-Rex, and others. The music had a funk edge to it, and while tight, it was not initially successful. Following up soon with the album Obscure Alternatives, the band continued on this path. However, by 1979, the band would slowly shift into a more successful direction. Taking their overt glam look and tailoring it for the new wave post-punk era, the band became more Roxy Music than Bowie and New York Dolls, exhibiting a more slick and stylized look on their third album, Quiet Life. The change would also bring a difference in Sylvian's singing style. Initially a fiery, screaming tenor, he became a baritone crooner, more akin to Brian Ferry, the leader of Roxy Music, as the music took on a more sophisticated path. Newly signed to Virgin Records, their fourth album, Gentlemen Take Polaroids, was a further expansion on their art pop sound. They were erroneously lumped in with the new romantic movement happening at the time due to their makeup and androgynous appearance. However, they distanced themselves from this movement, stating that their mindsets were completely different. By 1981, Rob Dean would leave the band, as the production became increasingly electronic and guitar work became less and less. However, David Sylvian would take over guitar roles after this point. Recorded in the spring of 1981, Tin Drum finds the band exploring the sounds and textures of Asian music realized in a new wave context. Spearheaded by Sylvian's fascination with Asian culture, particularly Japanese and Chinese, the band worked as a quartet in the studio to craft the song structures as well as the sounds therein. In creating instruments and motifs of the Orient, the Sequential Circuits Prophet 5 and the Oberheim OBX synthesizers were used to craft the Asian-influenced sounds and instruments programmed by both Barbieri and Sylvian. This is nothing to sneeze at, people. After listening to countless records with these two synthesizers on them, Tin Drum happens to be the most innovative use of them I've ever heard. Add to the mix the tribal yet funky drumming of Steve Jansen and the liquid fretless bass lines of Karn, and you have a musical stew of new wave art pop genius. The album boasted singles like The Art of Parties, Visions of China, and the hit single Ghosts. A haunting drumless track, Ghost was a hugely innovative and unlikely chart hitter, peaking at number 5 on the UK charts. After a tour in support of the album, the band called it a day, moving on to various solo and production work. Many factors, including the friendship deterioration of Karn and Sylvian, caused the unit to split. But before they did, they created one of the most innovative and unique albums of the 1980s. In time, they would reunite from production and solo careers to do an album under the name Rain Tree Crow. But it's the innovation and success of Tin Drum that solidified Japan's musical standings, not only in 1981, but in musical history as a whole. Wax!